measures taken by the Labour government in its principled view on this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call Kevin Haig.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is now at the third reading, no longer one bill but seven, and part two of the bill that we have been debating over some months is now 6 bills around indexation of benefits and pensions and allowances. The Green Party is going to continue to support the first bill, which all of the debate really until today, until this stage of the bill has been about. But we will oppose the 6 indexation bills, and I'll come to that shortly. We join others in thanking and praising the contribution of Minister Turia in bringing this to the House and in steadfastly campaigning on these issues. Tobacco is, as others have said, the greatest preventable cause of harm in New Zealand. And price measures that increase the price, are the most effective strategy for reducing consumption and therefore reducing harm. So this is, the first bill here is an absolutely sensible measure. It's interesting, I'll make the comment in passing, that the same argument, in fact, applies to reducing alcohol-related harm. And yet we saw the Prime Minister, in response to the Law Commission's report, immediately ruling out using price as a mechanism to reduce that harm. So there have been concerns raised in previous stages of the bill and indeed in the public debate about these measures, about what the government's intent was, and Minister Turia alluded to those in her contribution today. Because academics from the University of Otago raised the suggestion that the government could dispel speculation that its primary motivation was about revenue raising by adding into the bill a purpose that made it clear that this bill was in fact about improving the health of New Zealanders. And so government has declined to take up that suggestion, and I think that's unfortunate because that will ensure that there will continue to be a question mark not over Minister Turia's motivation, but over the motivation of the government as a whole on this issue. And that speculation, sir, has been fuelled by the fact that the particular option that was chosen by the government from those that were offered by officials for how excise tax could be increased over time to reduce tobacco-related harm, the option that was chosen by government was the one that had the least positive impact on health. And so it's natural for the community, and in particular the health community, to wonder about what the government's primary motivation is. So I also draw attention to the fact that this bill will not keep tax increases to a rate that will reduce tobacco consumption to meet the government's goal of a smoke-free Aotearoa by 2025. So what that means, Mr. Speaker, is that the government is planning to fail to meet its objective in 2025. It's good to see the comments from the Select Committee, because I think the Select Committee is concerned about those matters. Good to see the comments about possible other steps that the government might take to help achieve that goal. But the easiest step would have been to take the suggested excise tax increases that would have put this country on a path to achieving that goal. And it's unfortunate, sir, that government did not do that. The Treasury officials, in their comments to the Select Committee, said that the reason for choosing the excise tax increase regime of 10 by 10 by 10 Instead of that was proposed by health community groups and academics from around the country, universally, of an immediate increase of 40% in the excise tax, followed by smaller increases in future years. The reason Treasury officials gave for rejecting that was their concern of the impact that would have on low-income New Zealanders. And, I think all across the House would share concern about disproportionate impact on low-income New Zealanders. But when we asked the Treasury officials about what modelling that they'd undertaken to support their conclusion on that, in fact, there hadn't been any at all. This was just a supposition on their part. And when we asked the health groups who worked with those low-income New Zealanders or represented those low-income New Zealanders what they thought about the assumption Treasury had made, they all supported the more aggressive tax increases, or immediate 40% increase followed by the others. And so the reason that they did that, when we asked them about it, was that they said, well, actually, yes, it's true that there's disproportionate cost on low-income New Zealanders, but there's also a massively disproportionate benefit, both in health, but also the economic gains that came from that improved health. That's why they rejected the option that was chosen by government. I want to come to the other 6 indexing bills, and so it's certainly the case that making tobacco products more expensive reduces consumption. But sir, the logic that the Minister has outlined in her contribution today around the justification for these 6 bills fails a basic mathematical test. She said, well, it makes no sense to make tobacco products more expensive on the one hand by increasing the tax, and then to give that money back by including tobacco in the indexation for those benefits and allowances and so on. Unfortunately, sir, that's not how the trade-off works. That's not the linkage between these two things. What the 6 bills do that remove the increase in tobacco excise from the CPI for purposes of indexation, what they do, sir, is to effectively erode the incomes of all New Zealanders who receive those benefits or allowances or pensions, of all of those people, regardless of whether or not those people are smokers or non-smokers. So it applies to all of those people in a completely non-targeted way, and it erodes their income. It's not specific to tobacco at all. What instead it does is to relatively increase the price of everything that they spend their money on. That's what it does, sir. It is not a trade-off in the way that Minister Turia seems to imagine that it is. And so, therefore, it is not a measure that in any way, or these 6 bills are not measures that in any way provide incentive to reduce tobacco consumption. What they instead do is to punish the poor. And so that's not an objective that the Green Party can support. So we support the first bill and we reject the other 6.
I call Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very happy to support this bill, the purpose of which is to increase the excise tax to reduce smoking, dissuade young people